The wrapped around my finger.
I can't wait to listen to Rufus'
Rufus
version.
Wainwright version of Sting's Wrapped Around Your Finger. Ronnie has had to hear me sing it 500 times. We're gotten a competition who can sing it more to the other person now.
I'm happy I'm not part of that duet.
Okay.
Hey, guys.
Hello. I'm going to set this up, Bambos, because if you're going to talk, then we got to be able to synchronize. The one thing we've never been able to synchronize is the entry of the show.
Yeah. No, but you know Bart better than me, so go for it.
Well, we're going to be discussing A Life of Passion with Bart Doerfler on A Wonderful Chaos. Oh, very beautiful.
So here we are, another episode. Andy, number 32.
Number 32. Number 32. Look at where we've gone to. COVID-19 has led us to 32 segments.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we've got 50 already planned, so that's pretty impressive. And the 50th is on my 50th birthday.
I can't wait.
And at the end of today's show, we have the book cover reveal. So the book cover of The Wounded Healer. There's a poll that goes out where people get a vote on which cover they like best. It's not guaranteed that the one that wins will be used, but everyone gets a chance to say that I like this one better than the other.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen at the end of this segment.
And I'm not allowed to say which one I like because we're not going to taint anyone's opinion.
We're not tainting. It is so cool who we have on today. It is so cool. Like, I get the joy, and you said earlier in the segment, is this going to be like a high school reunion for you? Like, that's the first thing you said. Like, is this segment kind of like you gonna? And it's not really, and yet it also is. So Bart and I met. It was like my freshman year in high school, and Bart came over from Oklahoma or Texas. He came over he was sort of like middle America, and now he was coming to the coast with that mom and dad. Dad got a job, I believe, on the West Coast. And what I thought was the coolest thing, and this is like, it hit me, is that Bart has always been the more expressive individual in the world. He would like dance in his underwear on stage in high school when it wasn't considered cool to dance in your underwear on the stage in high school. Like, and he did that, and he said, fuck you all. I don't care how you feel. This is me in my full expression, right? And you think to yourself, if you've got that kind of charisma, where does that life lead you? Because if you're already not inhibited, basically, the world is yours to decide what you want to do with it. Right? Because once you inhibit what you think is or isn't acceptable, because society begins to throw their stigmas at you. And he was tortured in high school, that kid. Like, when I think about Bart, I mean, and they say, wow, I watch a TV show about like a high school when someone was like bullied. Like, Bart lived that life, people like writing crap on his on his table and stuff. I mean, he really overcame a lot, and he didn't just overcome it, he actually celebrated it. He never let it minimize him. It's like he embraced the titles, and then he went further with it. And that gave me obviously deep respect for him, and him said of like, at that age when I wouldn't have been able to do that, I was still trying to figure out how to make friends, like how to belong, how to be part of a social group. And so we went our separate ways. Obviously, I left America and spent years out. He then went to do the absurd thing and became a Chippendale dancer, right? So he did Chippendale, traveled the world, danced his thing. But obviously, as he's doing this, he's building his craft, building his network, like proving that he can do the things that everyone obviously is like wondering, what are you capable of? And then he started to say, I've got my own creativity. I'm going to do stuff. And what did he do? He said, I could do a show, and he did the shows for Disney, for Universal Studios. He did TV commercials. So he just said, I can do this, and he just set out in his way and started to create. And there was just something beautiful. And then we got back into connection because he came to Amsterdam, and I remember the day he had an idea for Holiday on Ice, and Holiday on Ice wasn't doing all that well. It's basically the show that tours Europe and the U.S. And he said, I've got an idea. And what I always loved was that I'm sitting with him, and I see this idea gestating in his mind that nobody else sees, but he does. And think about this. There's going to be millions and millions of dollars spent on his idea. it's his concept, it's his choreography, it's his creative direction. He has an idea, and now he has to go and sell the idea to an individual, and now he's got a boatload of money, and he has to prove that the idea was actually like conceivable. So that, like, when I experience that and I see the charisma that creates such things, I'm just awe-inspired. Because that's like in my life, anyone that says, I see it and the world will catch up with me, like that's the person that I see, wow, that energy helps me find more and more of what I want in my life, in my direction.
I fucking love this guy already.
Yeah. So, and the beauty is he doesn't get stuck in that, because he's like, I've done it. I've been there and done that. I've created shows in these big auditoriums. He did a Grease show that traveled Europe, which is just his interpretation of this on a spectacular scale. So it's just over and over again what he wants to do. And this is where the coolest part comes in. When we were in high school, he would like sit in the house and he'd buy these tracks. They were plastic tracks. They were like little wired things, and you'd loop them around in circles to create roller coasters. So he loved roller coasters. Like that was his thing. So I would see in his house, I'd go over and I'd see his next creation. And of course it had to deal with gravity, because the ball's got to continue going on the track that he's created. And so now, what is this now? Flash forward over 30 years later, what is he doing? He's decided to take that childhood joy and bring back in some shape and form, of which I have no clue, which he goes under the title of Roller Coaster Boy. So what I am going to enjoy is kind of enjoying the point of saying, wow, at 16 years old, this is where you were at. And now basically you come back at, we're not going to give our ages away, but maybe we will. And you're going to live it and enjoy it and like share it with the world. Like that is just, for me, that's joy. That's joy. That's joy.
I'm really loving, like, it's very rare that I hear you speaking with that energy.
Yeah.
About someone. I could feel my whole body ignited when you talk about him.
Yeah.
I can feel the love that you have for him.
Yep. And that's why I wanted to have him on.
Yeah.
So, and you were right. It is a high school reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ready to bring him on?
Let's do it. Without further ado,
here he is in the flesh. Bart Doerfler, roller coaster boy.
Yay! Hi, everybody.
Go at it, boy.
Hi.
We have to at least let all viewers know that we've come to we had a short discussion about what our background photo was going to be today.
Yeah.
And we decided that it was going to be Joy.
Joy.
And we agreed that anytime that Bart choreographically states Joy, that is a cue for both of us to let everyone know that that's the word behind us, because we realize everyone will think we're saying oi. Oi.
like do you see yourself as an entrepreneur?
Do I see myself as that?
Yeah.
I do. I'm unapologetic when I go into meetings and I work with people. I'm currently working like with Hasbro Toys right now, developing 2 big shows for them. I'm not allowed to say what they are, but they're IPs that have been around for over 30 years. And I walked into those offices and pitched the idea, and my producer himself said, no wonder you're scared shitless when you walk into meetings like this, because you're either fired or you're hired. I'm like, yep, because you threw everything out there. And it was great. When I pitched to Hasbro this new project, it's very rock and roll, Motley Crue, all this stuff, and they all started cheering. And they're like, the CEO for Hasbro said, we've never cheered. So I feel like I am an entrepreneur. I go in, I'm not afraid. I'm going to do what I believe is going to sell.
You're not afraid.
Not afraid. I love what I do. I know it's what I'm meant to do. I know I can do a good job. There are a lot of other great directors out there as well who I love and respect and love their work. And I just can't be afraid. We only have one time to live this life. Like going back to what Andy said about high school, that's why it never really bothered me. I couldn't let it get to me. It was like, I got to live my life. And that's the most important thing. So
when you did the Speed, right? Like Speed was so contrary to everything that Holiday and I had done until that point.
Right.
So how did it feel for you to go into the meeting knowing that they want dainty women in skirts that are tossed around with like orchestra music? Like how does that happen that you say, okay, I've got an idea, and it has nothing to do with your brand identity up until this point.
Well, because what they did is they brought me in. I won an award for my ice show in Hard Rock Park, which I totally flipped on its ear. I made it all this country bar, everybody's drinking, getting wasted, that whole thing. People fall in love, da da da. So I won the IAP award for that. So then with Speed, they flew me, after I won that award, they flew me to Europe to see their current show that had been running. And afterward, I go in with the CEO and all the executives, and I said, do you want the honest truth? I go, because you're paying me a lot of money to be here, to see this. Do you want me to be truthful? And they're like, yes. I said, I would never see that show again. And they're like, really? I go, it's just not for me. I go, I respect it completely. I respect it. I respect that director's vision. I said, but you've got to redefine what an ice show should be. And they were like, well, women and children, they're going to come. I said, but let's get the dads, let's get the teenagers, let's get the people on their phones. Let's get those people involved. And they were just like, write us a show. We'll fly you back in a month. And that's how Speed was born.
So you wrote Speed in a month's time from the moment when you said, you're not hitting the right target segment, I'll give you a show. And you had no idea what that show would be, or what was, like, how far did you have that show in your head before you said, let's do this?
Well, what they did is when I had that meeting with them, telling them how I felt about the one show, they gave me a little, like a bio, an 18-page bio that I was just kind of scanning while we were on a break. And one of the words in that bio said the things they look for, one of them was speed. And I said to them, I go, well, there's the name of your show, Speed.
Wow.
There we go. And they were just like, oh. And I had the show written. By the time I got back home, I wrote it on the plane. I knew exactly what it should be.
And when I saw the show, I loved it. And the show basically has, say call it 10 segments, maybe more, but and when you say you had it, did you have those 10 segments in your head?
Yeah, on the plane going home, I was like, let's talk about speed. What is speed in life? Speed is love. Speed is money. Speed is water. Speed is nature. I mean, there's so many different things. And that's how I came up with all those chapters. And then the way I write my shows, I get into music. I got to have music coming at me. And that's how the show poured itself out.
And when you say you got to get into music, are you working with a musical director, or do you say, I hear the music in my head and this is what I want it to be? Or do you say, I have a sensibility, what can you find that matches that? Like how far is that?
No, you're exactly right. What I do is I come home and I find the music I want, and then my musical director recreates it, because then we have to pay rights on certain songs. So I get to pick 2 or 3 songs that I want in the show, and that we'll pay for. But otherwise, all of it's original music. And I sit there and go to all recording sessions and sit there with the musical director, and we come up with stuff and the licks and the orchestra and what I want here. And I start choreographing it with the musical director. I'm like, well, if we hold these notes, she can do a spin that's going to take her forever. And then we come out of it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So you have to see it in your head in order to produce the music that complements it. You can't just say, here's the music, now let's dance to that.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
I got to see the whole show.
So you also choreograph, is that right?
I do choreograph with the ice shows, because I'm not a skater at all. I'm walking around on the ice in my tennis shoes, telling my skating choreographers, I want you to do one of these things and do one of those there, and that kind of thing.
Wow, that's brilliant.
So yeah.
How many times did they not respect you because you don't have, like, you don't even know what you're asking me? Like, how many times would that occur?
Yeah. Oh, it happened. There were skating choreographers. They were like, Bart, you can't go right. It has to go left. I go,
oh, really?
I want it to go right because it's never gone right before. So instead, let's figure out how to go right. So it would make them sometimes a little angry and frustrated, because that's not how the training works.
Yeah.
But I said, you know what? We've got to appeal to people. Like one day they were showing me edging, which edging is beautiful, but it's a very, very professional skating thing, which you wouldn't understand. And they were showing me, I'm like, you guys, it's beautiful. I'm talking about arena tours. I need you to jump and do triples, and I want to light you on fire. So I'm going to throw you from a motorcycle like I did, things like that. So it was fun to push them and to watch all the skaters. I mean, we just had a Zoom meeting last week, and they're just we're still such a family, and they all say they've never done a show like that again. And it was just the best experience of my life.
Yeah. I mean, who puts a motorbike on an ice rink and has them drive it around? Like, that was already an absurd idea.
It was. And our Jean-Pierre, who was our stunt coordinator, he is James Bond in all the stunt scenes. He's James Bond, and he's the coolest, nicest guy. He'd be on wheelies on the ice. He's like, Bart, do you like that? I'm like, I love it. Just on the back of the bike and throw them. It's like, sure, let's try it. But yeah, we worked on the motorcycle stuff. That was its own rehearsal every single night, 3 hours a night. Its own. It took a long time. It took months.
Yeah, I know, because you were in Amsterdam for months, and we
Months.
were like, "Let's meet for dinner," and you're like, "No, like not tonight, not tonight, not." We barely saw one another because you were working out late every night.
Yeah, it was about
Yeah.
7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day.
Yeah.
So, Bart, I don't really know much about you, just a little bit what I've read. But when you say they trusted you with this project, obviously you have a background of like credentials, right?
Yes.
And I guess that background of credential also makes you fearless. But the word fear and entrepreneur in my body goes hand in hand.
Right.
Only you don't allow the fear to define you. So where in your journey did you kind of use the fear to propel you? Because that's how it feels when you talk about it.
Yeah, you know what? It started when I was a dancer. When I was a dancer in LA, and I teach this when I teach master classes. I teach these young dancers that I would do a film or a music video or a commercial, and I would ask the first assistant director, "Hey, can I just hang out and just watch the director's process? I'm just really curious." And 9 times out of 10, they would say, "Absolutely." And even after that, the director would pull up a chair and explain everything to me that was going on. And that's how I learned, was hands-on. I wasn't afraid to ask that, because I'm like, all they can do is say no. And then before I knew it, those directors were giving me the jobs they didn't want. And that's how I started directing in film and TV. I would get commercial throwaway they didn't want to do. And because it was kind of beneath them. They're like, you know what, there's this young new director you should bring in. And that, my fear disappeared in LA for sure. Because it was that thing when you go to LA, you make the decision, LA or New York, you're going to be with the best of the best. Like my first audition I walked into, there were like 800 guys for 2 spots. It was Madonna's guys that just finished tour, Janet Jackson's guys who just finished tour. I walked in, I was like, holy shit, here we go. And that's when you had to let the fear go. And and I booked that job. I was one of the 2 guys. Yay.
Wow. And that was what was that for?
That was in LA for LA Gear.
Oh, okay. It was a modeling job or dancing?
Dancing. Back in the day, back in the 90s, the mid 90s, all the shoe companies had tours. So like I used to tour with Nike, I toured with LA Gear, I toured with Adidas, and they were huge shows and amazing. They paid really well. We traveled all over the world. It was awesome. It was like a 2-year contract. So
there's pictures of Bart that'll make you blush. He had like 0 body fat. He sort of was like
did you have like thighs the size of a
I didn't. You know what? With some of the companies, I had to stay between 4 and 6% body fat, or you didn't work that week. You didn't go on the show that week.
Oh wow!
They measured us weekly. So yeah, there were years in there where I was so low fat, but I had to be. It was part of the job.
Wow.
I find it incredible that you come from a dance background, because most of the dancers that I know here in Amsterdam anyway have a poverty mentality, and somehow you exploded and like woof, and took your art into spaces which my mind still needs to. How did he connect the dot to producer?
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. What happened was, so then, as I said, I became a director, like choreographer, director in LA. And then I was offered to produce a live show here in Vegas. And I was like, what a perfect time to go. I need a break from film and TV. I would like to take a little bit of a break, because being on set every day can be very hard. It can be very taxing. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I want to go produce a live show and see what it's like. Why not? I haven't done Vegas. So I came out here and produced a show that ran for 4 years. Very successful, really happy. And
what was that show?
That was Vamp's Girly Review. It was a 60s burlesque show. So it was all themed to Elvis and Margaret, all that kind of stuff. And it was a blast of a show. Such a good time. Still great family. Those girls are all my friends. And we all have kids now. We're all parents.
Telling them not to do the things you did when you were working there, of course.
Exactly. So, and then it just kept going from there. And I was never afraid. I like new challenges. So like one of the parades I directed in Japan, I had 350 cast and crew. And my husband's like, are you scared? I'm like, no, let's do it. That's just more people to have fun with. Let's do it.
Do you ever have that mentality? Let's try to fuck this up.
No, but I do like to mess with people. I like to mess with executives, especially. I have a signature thing that I do. Like when we did Speed, we had a signature song, and anytime the rule was all executives, everybody, crew, cast, if a song comes on, that song, you have to just stop everything and dance wherever you are. And so I would look at the executives, like I could see them through the windows having meetings and things getting serious. And I'd go over, run to my assistant. I'm like, hit it. And you'd see them like push their chair back. And they'd all start dancing because they knew I was watching. Yep. It worked every time though. So I like to do that kind of stuff. Make people
I love it. Yeah, it's getting back in their bodies.
Yeah, let's have fun. Let's just have fun. We're in this entertainment. You're in it because you love it. So, yeah.
Huh.
So now, why do we have the word joy? Is that like I'm living my life fully and grabbing it by the balls, and as a end result, joy?
Yeah.
Very true.
And I see it. I'd like to maybe stay here maybe a little longer, but then segue, because to some degree, like I see joy is being present with what activates you and gets you excited at this moment. Mm-hmm. So when I saw you doing the Coaster Boy, then like you got to see, like I got a little tingle in my system. Like, yeah, that never left your system, right? Yeah. So whatever the 15-year-old had in a system, you're like, now is the time to reintroduce it into my life. And I think that's just cool.
It's, you know what, it's amazing how it came full circle. Because what happened was I was talking with a friend of mine who's a life coach, and she said, she goes, tell me more of these roller coaster stories that you have growing up. They're so funny. She goes, are you writing these down? I'm like, no, she's like, you've got to write all of this down. So I started writing it. And then the first book has come through. And then it just so happened, I was like, well, I'll just test the waters. I'll call a couple of people I know to see if anybody knows maybe a book publisher, an agent. And I called one of my dearest friends, and she goes, Bart, do you realize I've been a book publishing agent now for 20 years? We just never talked about work. She was a choreographer.
Oh, I love
for
it.
years I used to work with. And I'm like, are you kidding me? She goes, you get me whatever you have. And then I explained it to her, and she's like, I'm in. I don't even like roller coasters, but I love your book. She's like, it's so funny. And so I have a series of 12 of them. I outlined. I have the first one done. And now that I'm working with Hasbro, I'm looking to approach Hasbro. I have a toy line designed. I have a board game designed. We've got all the stuff laid out, and it's
that's great. By the way, I've got a story for you. I went to Magic Mountain Spin Out twice in a row, and I threw up. Mm-hmm. And if you know what spin out is, the centrifugal force is spinning you around in a circle, so you're stuck against a wall.
And the floor drops. You're sticking to the
floor
wall.
drops, so you're stuck against the wall, and the floor drops underneath you. So you're basically stuck against this wall.
Wow!
As you're going around, So now I get sick, of course, throw up. But the throw up, of course, it sticks to the wall, right? And
so gross.
was running next to you?
No, this is a long time ago. This was sort of 18. Don't go twice in a row. The lesson learned. But the funny thing is that you have to think to yourself, everybody who's next to me is freaking out. So now all I know is we're stuck to the wall, but the person next to me where I've just gotten sick can't go any further because there's someone next to them. So what happens is they somehow work their way underneath me against this wall to protect themselves from not getting this all over them.
What we called when I used to work at Magic Mountain, that's called the 1038 when somebody throws up, and you always heard it from that ride. 1038.
You always what?
You'd always hear it on the radio about that ride. We got 1038s going. Yeah, everybody threw up on that ride. Oh, awful.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah,
absolutely awful.
I'm really happy you shared this with us, Andy.
Yeah, I just had to. It was a 1038. I mean, you got to share a 1038, Bambo.
That's right. I love it.
I can see why Andy invited you here.
Oh, well, thank you. It's all about joy. Choreography.
Why do you say that?
Oh, just being with him, it like he's a kind of light. And I can imagine people want to like grab some of that light. Like I want to spend time with this guy, and maybe what he has will rub onto me.
Exactly.
Well,
you notice that, right? Like I've noticed that in my life, right? It's the more you are in the world creating, right? The more you're engaging the world, the more the world piece of it, because they see what's lacking necessarily in themselves, and they're looking for that outside of themselves. Like, oh, I want some of that. I've
Right.
noticed that, at least in my case. Yeah.
Right.
And
No,
then I'm like, wow,
no, you see
what were you gonna
that
say?
I have people that tell me. I've had people tell me before and challenge me. They're like, you just seem like you're too happy, and I'm like, well, why not be happy? Why can't that be
Yeah.
my journey? Is being happy and enjoying every single
Yeah,
second.
but there's something wrong with you. I mean, you must be hiding something.
Yeah. No, it is. It's just one of those things. I've always been that way. Andy knows that, and
Yeah.
I've always been happy. I never let things get to me. I don't read reviews like of my shows or anything like that. I don't pay attention to negativity. I
Yeah.
just have time. There's too much negativity in the world already. So why
Yeah.
not spread the happiness and
Hmm.
enjoy
Yeah.
every single second?
I mean, in this case, of course, we just referred to our the Speed did so well financially,
Mhm.
that even if people didn't like it, then obviously that wouldn't have been an issue. I mean,
Right.
who cares if they liked it? I mean, if people are coming and seeing it because they're, it's like the NATO has the critics reviews and then the audience reviews. At
Yeah.
some point you're like, I'm more interested in the audience reviews because if someone critiques it, then hey, that's an intellectual. I want to know, do I enjoy it? Right? Did I have a great ride?
That's how I
Yeah.
create all my shows. All my shows are created from a version of I want to go see it. I want to be able to watch the show 10, 11, 12 times and not be bored. And if I
Yeah.
want to see it, then everybody else does too. Because I think
Oh,
people
that's brilliant.
style. And so that's where I bring it from. I'm like, do I like the show? I better like the show.
That's how Andy lives.
I was going to say, when you speak that way, when I write, I'm like, I don't want to write something I wouldn't want to read,
Right.
No,
Exactly.
but even if he's right, like if he's doing something, he's always going in the perspective of, am I enjoying this? Do I find it interesting? Because if I find myself getting distracted, then probably it's no good.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, you guys
Yeah.
are alike in that way.
I just think you got to live the truth and what your truth is. And on the inside when something's wrong. I know when an idea is wrong.
Yeah.
I had a script come to me by a very huge company, another toy company, and I just didn't. They were throwing money at me, and I read the script, and they just did not like the script. I couldn't make it a good show. But our director family is so small. I said, "Listen, it's not for me, but I have another director who it's right up her alley. She'll be perfect for it. You
Uh-huh.
should call her." Because I knew I couldn't justify the script. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it a good job because
Yeah.
it just wasn't for me. I didn't connect,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and they wouldn't let me change it. So
Oh, is that right? They gave you a set script. You got to direct it. I got
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So
Nice.
Hmm.
loveliest, the nicest people, and they totally understood, and they said thank you. I was like,
Yeah.
I just want to do that. I said, could easily take the money and run and try to make it work. I said, but it's just not me. That's never
Right.
been.
Your reputation goes down, and then that's what do
Yeah.
you have afterwards? There's nothing after that. Imagine if someone saw that show and say, "Look at where he's gone."
Right. No, exactly. It's true.
And we wouldn't have this word behind
No.
us right now.
No, that would actually be self-sacrifice. We don't like self-sacrifice.
Right.
Is it self-sacrifice?
In some ways, I mean, think about it. If he had an ulterior need, if he needed the money in order to do something, right,
Mm.
then he would sacrifice the thing that he really wanted, which is not to do that show, for the money. So in some ways, he's given himself the luxury of saying, "Hey, I don't need to self-sacrifice. If I don't like it, I'm not going to do it." Like that's
like just I want to explore something, and
Mm.
I want to see, like, if you had said yes to that
Hmm.
and kind of use it as an opportunity to explore yourself in how you can find that love
Hmm.
within that process,
Hmm.
and even get to know yourself. Oh wow, that's so much resistance here, like, oh, this is juicy. So
Right.
you actually get to explore the parts of yourself instead of always going for the thing, like, there's my vision, but it's just I'm just speaking out loud just to see how it comes out.
yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying. Why not push myself and push my boundaries and try to make the script feel like me and push myself in that level? And
Or
I
get
did.
to know yourself, actually get to
Yeah,
know yourself in the space where you don't like.
I did it one time as a choreographer when I was first starting out. When I was younger, you take everything. You take every job that's thrown
Mhm.
at you because you're trying to make a
Mm.
name for yourself. And I took a job as a choreographer that I hated. That was absolutely awful. I hated every second of it. And I told myself, I'll never be in this place again. It's not fair. I'm in a
I
very
love
dark
that you say
place.
that.
And I realized it. And I told myself never again because it just wasn't
Yeah.
me. And I was working with people I didn't care for. And then it came across to the dancers, and it became a very negative experience. And that's not why I did this.
I'd like to hit that back to you, right? Before he responded, I already had instinctively in my head, he doesn't do it because he's had enough experience to see that it doesn't work. So you were approaching it, what I found interesting from there might be someone you could learn there. And I see myself similar to Bart. Like there's some things like Bambos knows me really well. Like basically most of the people that say want to work with me, I just say no. Mm-hmm. Not for any other reason. Then there's got to be the conditions there that work for me.
Right.
And then in each time that I say yes, I always regret it. Because I'm always like, oh my God, exactly the reason why I knew I said no, and now I haven't, and now I have to suffer the consequences of like the hand holding or the person that hasn't dedicated to self-improving, but's hoping that I can give an answer that they actually need to figure out for themselves.
Right.
You know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's no different than you. I mean, you and I have had those discussions for ages where it would be quite interesting. Is like there's situations like when you're sending out invoices or when someone says, can you send me an offer? Like you would do things differently now than you did them 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I find it very, very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Things change and things evolve. I mean, we're watching right now with this whole COVID, how entertainment's going to change. And I feel very, very lucky. I'm on 2 productions. And Roller Coaster Boy, but it's good.
Yeah, and I would love to go because we just discussed Roller Coaster Boy, but I'd love to go one step deeper. So I understand that it's a book. But it's more than just a book. Can you kind of elaborate, or is that still intellectual property? Like
no, I still can. It's it's a book is the first one. It's along the same lines of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and it's actually my true stories growing up, but it's based off my true stories.
Okay.
And so it's all my stuff going through with my best friend, Nikki, she and I growing up together, going to theme parks together when we were kids. And it's all those stories, but it's done for modern times. So yes, we didn't have cell phones back then, but now the book is written with cell phones and kids on social media and those kinds of things. Because we've got to touch on what they know.
So what age group is this for now? What age group They
said it's going to be considered a young reader category. So kind of like middle school kids, 6th, 7th. So, and then on top of that, we have a 30-minute reality show attached to it that I already have written out and done. And then we've started a movie script. So, so just, this lockdown has been great because it's given me so much time to do all that. So just write. And I love it. I realize how much I love it. And this is what I want to do. And this is what I love too about this territory. Like you were saying earlier, Andy, this is my territory. Like that's the whole thing. I mean, the dance world, entertainment world, there are a million people out there. Roller Coaster Boy is mine. Like nobody can come in and start talking. And I was actually at an event, and some dad started trying to talk all roller coaster stuff. And Michael, my husband, overheard him, and he goes, "Oh, don't start! Don't start acting.
Don't jump him."
It was hysterical. So it's a Roller Coaster Boy opens itself up to a million things. And I would like to move it into older books where I talk about coming out and I talk about adoption and I talk about, everything I went through as a performer, all the experiences. And so I'm hoping I can continue, I hope it goes on well.
That's beautiful. So you're kind of using it as a platform for other things.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Even in the books, in one of the books, I touch on the fact of seeing the male dancers in the shows and how I felt oddly connected to them. And I didn't understand why. It's like, why do I feel so connected? Why do I realize that's what I want to do? Because that's
how old?
I was 10.
10. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And I also think at the time the books are all about, each one has a lesson and teaches kids about believing in themselves and just, it's okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay to think differently. The whole reason I got into roller coasters and I explored it with my agent, she was like my therapist. And she said, "Why do you think you liked them?" I said, "Well, when it comes down to it, I guess it was my escape from my reality. That was my escape." And she goes, "What were you escaping from?" I was like, "Oh,
that whole runs deep." It's like a metaphor for the twists and turns of life,
Oh, man. Yeah. Absolutely. So I turned the book around in the latest version where I kind of explored that more, and she was so happy. So I'm very happy. Yeah.
I remember But I know you don't like me going back potentially to our high school days, but I
Oh,
do.
please go. I really want to
wanna-
hear this.
So when we would go out, we would go to the Halloween, what do you call them? Like houses and things.
Yeah, the haunted houses.
Yeah, the haunted houses. And the haunted houses in the US are so good. Like you can't compare them with the things that are anywhere else in the world because the amount of time, energy, and money, like you go into this massive experience. And Bart used to search out the haunted houses and we'd go and drive to them, all the while singing Take on Me by Aha. We had the cassette tape of Take on Me. Like
I don't know this.
Take on me.
Oh, yeah.
Take on me. We basically went through that tape quite a few times on the drives because they were never close to us. We always had to drive to like Reseda or something.
Yeah.
And I remember one of them like distinctly. It'll stay in my mind the rest of my life. It was basically the white and squared checkered room, and then someone was wearing white and squared checkers with strobe lights.
Yep.
So you couldn't see them in the room because the strobe light would make it appear that they were part of the wall. And so then they'd freak the hell out of you because all of a sudden they're in your face when you think they're part of the wall.
Mm.
And then there's things you wouldn't be able to do today, I'm sure. Like they had railings that like you would hold the railing to get comfortable, and then they had electrical shock in them. So basically, they wouldn't do that anymore, I don't think, because there'd be too many security issues. But
so many security issues. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, the whole haunted industry is my other favorite industry. I mean, now when I work with Universal, the times I work, they have now a year-round team for horror nights only. That's all
Yeah.
they do, and it runs for 2 months. And they start building and designing in January
wow.
next year. And I mean, it's unbelievable. It sells out every single night. It's unbelievable.
I've never had this experience, so
You have to have it.
my brain is like, what are these guys talking
I mean,
about?
America is so different than the rest of the world when it comes to escapism through going into parks, amusement parks. Like there's no, like, COVID, the big issue with COVID is because America needs consumerism in order to function, right? We don't have manufacturing. We've got amusement parks. So people spend so much money in amusement parks, but if they don't go there, obviously there's no jobs. The whole place goes. So in some weird way, like America has cornered the market on entertainment.
Well, Europeans go to IKEA.
That's hysterical.
Like I have a curiosity.
Yeah.
Like you talked about coming out of the closet, right?
Mm.
And you talked about when you were a little boy. So my brain was like, growing up, and feel free to say you don't want to answer this question, but how were your parents? Were they supportive of your journey? And growing up, coming out of the closet, like, did you come out of the closet and Andy knew about it, or did you guys discover it later on in life?
I'm sure Andy knew. Of
No.
course, I think you knew. You knew. You had
Obviously.
no,
I mean, in fact, the only problem was he was being so tortured. I mean, he was being so tortured, it was hard to be around him because he was being that tortured. That was how bad it was.
no, my parents, they knew when I was 5. They read books on it. And then my freshman year home from college is when I officially came out to them, and they both started laughing. They were like, "Oh, honey, we've known since you were 5." While I was home on that Christmas break where I just came out, my dad set me up with a guy in his office.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this is too much. My head's going to explode. And mom's introducing me to all the guys at her bank and that kind of thing. I'm like,
we want to get you a nice doctor.
Yeah.
Down. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too weird.
Yeah,
So,
I always found your parents to be really like your mom, incredible loving. I mean, just going over to your place was always feeling like coming home again.
Yeah.
I was so what?
Still the same. She's still the same. She's
Mm.
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
So
old?
I felt very lucky. I came out at 18.
Okay.
And yes, I was 18. And
18.
now we're 50.
Yeah. Wow.
But
you
yeah,
know what? But you said you came out, but for all intents and purposes, you were out in high. Like now, if we look at high school, it's cool to be out, right? When we were in high school, at that point, you wouldn't come out at that time because whatever you'd be persecuted whether you're out or not out, just because of But nowadays, it's sort of like so ubiquitous. It's like, oh, it's just normal.
Yeah, they have, and especially in the United States. I don't know about Europe, but in the United States, like at Lorelei's high school, they have the gay clubs now. They have all that stuff, which we never had.
Never.
And you remember, Andy, I dated girls all the way through high school.
Yeah.
But yet, then I'd leave the girls and I'd go meet guys after
Yeah.
that.
But you
So,
wouldn't tell anybody.
no.
Yeah.
But and it was a weird time. You're discovering yourself. So,
Yeah.
but,
And intense, because I mean, you were living with intensity already in the school. So in some ways you had to reconcile feelings, and also the feelings of actually not being loved and accepted for who you were. Right.
right.
Which
Right.
is, you know,
Wow.
yeah. And I've often said, you noticed a lot of my friends are gay. And I've always said it's because I gravitate towards people that have had to go through something dramatic in their lives and made peace with it, because they're so much more grounded in their energy. Right. Like anyone who's gone through suffering with my mom's death. Right.
Mhm.
Like when you've gone through suffering and you've come out the other end, there's sort of a depth of like where you can hold space for another person and be with them without the nonsensical chatter.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a cool thing too that people don't know about being gay and coming out, is that once you've gone through that and you've come out, that's why we all connect so well, because we've all had to go through that awful pain of deciding, is this the time that I need to come out and tell my friends and family? Will they treat me different? And so we have that bond. And that's one thing about when people go to gay bars, my straight friends, and they're like, it's just so happy. Everyone's so happy. I'm like, we're free. We're free.
That's what gay means.
Yeah. We're happy and free. Exactly.
Yeah. When I lived in Vienna, I had a very close friend that I met in Japan that was gay, and he came to visit me in Vienna, and we went to this gay bar.
Mhm.
And in Vienna, the oppression is pretty harsh still till today. They're not the most open and free. So we went to the gay bar. It was a dance bar, and I went in, and then there was a center dance floor, and then no one was dancing. So I was like, guys, you're persecuted. You're in your own house. It's time to let go. It's time to let it go.
Exactly.
Very, very, yeah.
No, it's funny. It's a different journey. It's a different road, but it's also a road that I love helping these younger dancers. When I teach master classes at these different studios, these young male dancers, I'll have them all the time come up to me and be like, I think I might be. I'm like, that's okay. You can be, because they're 18, 19, 20. I'm like, that's okay. And then they get excited because they see that I have a husband and I have a daughter and a regular life. And they're like, that's actually out there. You can have a real normal life. I'm like, absolutely. Absolutely you can. So
and the fact that you even call regular life, that makes me cringe, like as if the other isn't. I know you say it without the intent, but it's like, oh my God, we're still in a state where the world would say this isn't just as normal as anything else.
Right.
No, I'm allowed to exist.
With Lorelai, right? You've got this daughter that you've raised from birth, basically, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd be curious, what would you say were the most challenging moments when the fact that she had two fathers was something that it was hard to help her, because she had to reconcile whatever she had to reconcile? Is there some specific moment you say, yeah, that wasn't an easy time for us?
It's never an easy time being a parent, but no, it is. We're really lucky. What happens when you go through the adoption process, you have to take psychology classes, and they tell you this list of questions in order, the way they will be asked as they grow up. The thing that has happened, though, we've realized in our marriage, is that she asks the important questions whenever I'm traveling. And she asked Michael, like at the grocery store, like the most random stuff. And like, oh, okay, now's the time we're going to cross that bridge.
Yeah.
And,
can I meet my mom?
Right. All those questions. Exactly.
Like,
and,
I
was just getting a frozen pizza. But she's unbelievable. She's so smart, and she totally gets it, and she's understood it since she was little. And we've been really lucky, really lucky. And
she hasn't had to deal with bullying because her parents are two men.
One time, and her teacher called us, and this was when she was in elementary school, and she had bright red hair when she was born. She looked like Kris Kringle in that cartoon from Christmas. And so the kids were teasing her that she was adopted. She was adopted on the playground, and her teacher heard this and went over there. And she called us to tell us, you should be proud, because Lorelai turned around and said, well, so Santa. And the kids all went, oh, Santa was adopted. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then they left her alone. That's been the only time. That's been the only time. Yeah, no, people think it. Michael was more surprised about it all because he thought we would be bullied.
Oh, wow.
he didn't realize that. I'm like, no, people are different. We're that family on that corner. That's it. So
Yeah,
nobody,
you led that generation of sort of the normalcy of this just being a normal family unit, right? Because in a way, people have to see it, and then once they see it, it becomes normal. But
right,
somebody had to first do it for it to become normal.
right,
Mm.
You were the
exactly.
first person I know, you and funnily enough, my college roommate, right? Because
Oh,
my college roommate also has a child.
mhm.
And yeah, it was it's just beautiful to see. Yeah, society finally getting over itself.
Yeah,
So
we've had issues. We were at the mall and we had, some guys use the F word, but
Yeah.
Lorelai was with us. And I looked at Michael and I'm like, no, no. So I went right back down the escalator and stopped those two guys. I go, I don't care what you say to our face. Don't say it in front of my child. You don't say
Yeah.
that. And they both were
mm,
like, oh, sorry. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
don't say that in front of the kids. I don't
Yeah.
care what you say to me, but don't say it in front of her. So, so that still goes on, but
Yeah.
that's life. We all have
Yeah.
our own little things. So,
Yeah.
well, since we're going into the past,
mhm.
how was Andy anyway?
How was Andy?
Well, I mean, you've read his book, but before you read his book, like, how did you perceive him, and how did that change after reading his book?
Um, it didn't. I've always known Andy to be highly intelligent. We always had such great conversations in high school. And then when we reconnected, we had great conversations. And it didn't change for me because I've always known him to be this guy. I got excited to see him spreading his intellect to more people. And then
Mm.
when we got into what his job is and what he's been doing, I'm like, there's nothing better in the world than for him to do that. Because he always
Mm.
would pose the perfect questions to people. We'd be in class and he'd say something, a question to the teacher, and he'd just go, where the hell did that come from? And
And
he
the
would be
teacher never
right.
liked it. I was never
No.
loved. It's
Oh
like,
God.
God, why are you so inquisitive? Like,
You could have easily been an inspector, you know that.
yeah.
No, I think
We've got I'm going to be inviting two teachers on from our high school days, right?
oh my
We've
God.
got Gigi Peru is going to be
Yeah.
on the show. We got Gigi, who's got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, child actress that's well known or in her time, I've got his name escapes me just because I'm in such a different zone, but he'll come to me. But
Mm.
our teacher he was the one who was responsible for all of our Bill Appleblossom.
Yeah, there you go.
Appleblossom, Mr. Apple. Yeah, he's
Oh
going
my
to be on as well because he's doing legacy. He's doing a lot of work with wisdom, the elder wisdom, and he has his own website. So I thought it'd be great to discuss, how wise do we get with age, which is basically the elder
Mm.
wisdom that he's, supporting oh,
No, which I
lost
think
our mic.
No, we lost our
We lost our
sound.
heads. It wasn't Joy. It was something else. There we are. I hear you in one ear now.
okay.
Nice.
Mm.
No, it's awesome. I think Andy has a lot to bring to the table, and Bambos, from watching the show, you have obviously a lot to bring to the table as well. And I think that's the most important thing. As we get older, we've got to share our knowledge with the younger set. We've got to. It's so important.
Yeah.
And I've learned in the entertainment world, when I go teach these master classes, the biggest thing with these younger kids are their belief in themselves, because social media brings them down so much.
Mm.
Dancers are their own beast as it is. I mean, that's a tough career. It takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication, a lot of training. And so it's all about self-worth. And I think if we can teach people self-worth right now, everybody needs it.
Could
We
you
all
imagine in our age if we would have had to have dealt with the self-image of trying to portray ourselves a certain way in order to
right,
feel like we'd be accepted by a group?
right,
I mean, it
right,
was hard enough to deal with it without actually having to curate it. Like,
right.
am I going to put this picture online because it portrays me in a certain light?
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean, that the fact that we've evolved to that is just so scary for me because it ingrains more and more identity where, my life is like, how do we shed that?
right, right.
Mm.
It's totally
No, I
counter.
agree. It's hard. It's hard. The social media aspects of everything is really hard. I fought social media for a long time. I was like, oh, I don't need to do that. And then I got to the point where I realized how much I enjoyed like family, friends, catching up with everybody. I enjoyed that.
There he is.
There
There's
you
the
go.
man. Okay, just to get him back on, like let's if we have some time, we're gonna put some pictures of him in his prime.
Yeah.
Like to say that Bart, like he bought up. I mean, Bart was a pretty good-looking guy himself, but I mean, if you look at Michael's pictures, I mean, like, yeah, come on. I
He was a
mean,
model back in the day.
he
The
was
day
a
I met him,
model.
he was the Ricky Martin impersonator at the Stratosphere. He was the only one represented by Ricky Martin's people because he actually sang, danced, and looked like him.
Wow.
And yeah, so I definitely have traded up for sure.
Yep.
I'm the lucky one. And now it's been almost 20 years, so it's been a long
20
time.
years.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah, it's great.
That is really beautiful. I'm curious, like if you look at sort of like I don't like looking at life too much sort of in segments, but let's say for the moment, if you say, I look at my life now and you have the roller coaster boy, do you have sort of a vision for yourself like, and like I can see myself going in these directions, like without making it too explicit? Do you have a kind of a vision of what that would look like now?
Sure. Now that I've accepted the part of being roller coaster boy and putting myself back out there, my face back out there, I
Mhm.
see this really being my focus of my life. I love entertainment. I've had a great time, but also at the same time, I need to focus on the next chapter. I want to leave a legacy for Lorelai. I'd love to know that I could leave her these books. I could leave her a toy line. I could leave her stuff so she doesn't have to worry in her life and
Yeah.
have something to focus on. But it's really funny. You'd be surprised. So I'm in Vegas now, but we actually want to move smaller. We both keep talking about that smaller town, maybe Northeast somewhere. And
Wow.
once she goes to college, we both really miss living in small towns. We miss it.
Community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vegas is amazing. This is a great city, but we've done it. We've been here 20 years, so it's like, okay, what can we do next? What's the next chapter? And but
Mhm.
yeah, we're those people. We're just small town people. Because when we
Yeah.
opened up Hard Rock theme park in Myrtle Beach, we opened it together. And in Myrtle Beach, they only have 25,000 people year round that live there. And so
Wow.
we knew everybody at the grocery store, everybody at the Target. We knew everyone. And then we had 14 million people come into the city for the summer. So that's where the
Wow.
park made its money. But we really realized how much we like that.
And
So
you, I mean, in that location, although it wasn't created, you also built a full scale roller coaster that was supposed to go into that location, if I recall correctly.
yeah, I designed one because they brought me in as creative director because my two shows won their IAPA award, the IAPA World Awards. And then so they said, would you want to be creative director of the park? And because they knew my ride design, because I worked with the Imagineers at Disney,
Mhm.
I had
Mhm.
done ride design, so they brought me in and yeah, designed my first roller coaster, my first full one, which never opened because the whole park ended up going bankrupt. But
Yeah.
I had two new attractions already in the can for them, and
Wow.
I was very excited because it was my dream. So
Yeah. And the
and
roller coaster, just so when you design it,
mhm.
you just to help me understand, are you sitting with a pen and paper doing this? Are you talking to someone and saying this is the effect or this is the do you come up with a concept and then develop it? Like what's your process of creating something like that?
Yeah, an attraction, it depends on what's needed at the park. And at
Okay.
that park, what was needed, it was a launch coaster. And because we had a partnership already with Harley Davidson, I got to hold a Vekoma, which has a motorcycle roller coaster. And
Uh-huh.
we were going to do a Harley Davidson factory where you were shooting through and in and out of the factory and all that kind of stuff. So I knew what the park needed. And
Oh
so I
wow.
worked with those people. And then I contact the ride engineers and say, this is what I'm looking at. Then we try to get things to contract and goes forward from there.
Wow,
Mm.
beautiful.
I'm the one who kind of decides what I want to happen, and then the engineers come in and with all their numbers and figure all that.
Yeah, I think this is like speaking to this in creativity, what I know, and this is what I see in someone who sort of doesn't allow themselves to live full in their joy,
There you go.
is that actually you trust yourself so much that whatever comes up, you know you'll address it.
Right.
So if I said to you, like, you're going to make a roller coaster, like 9 out of 10 people would say, oh my God, that's crazy. I can't do that.
Mhm.
And then it's the one person that's crazy enough to think, of course I can do that. And I have no idea how to do it. Like
Right.
those two complementary forces, like that's the crux of creativity. Like
Yeah.
that's the joy of just the living, quite honestly, right?
Well,
Yeah.
fun working with Universal because after I did Harry Potter, they brought me in to be on the design team of the Secret Life of Pets ride that they're getting ready to open. The way these big multi-million attractions work, it's a $150 million ride. They have teams of people. So I was on the first team of people. And when that happened, they had me choreograph all the animatronics, how the cars are going to work because they're trackless. So they want them all to have a personality. And so I created the ride and did a ride through for them with music. And I'm doing all this choreography for all these tech guys. And they're all looking at me, not knowing what I'm talking about. But it was fantastic. And they said, we don't know what you're doing, but we'll buy all of it. We're in. And it's
I mean, I think in some ways, like feeling the essence that one is being is more valuable than the intellect of what the words are. Like if they can say, oh, I see from how you're sharing the experience, I can imagine myself having the same experience.
Right.
Like that I found to be more valuable than anything else in my life nowadays.
Yeah.
Like give someone an experience that they can hold themselves is far more valuable than trying to explain it. And then they like lose it once you're gone. Now they need you back again.
Right.
And,
right.
Yeah.
It's taking them on that journey, on that joy. I mean, these are people behind computer screens all day. These are technicians. And so to get that joy out of them was exciting to see. Like they're tapping their feet and they're all excited. And so they got it. And it was fun.
That's cool. And when in these jobs, I mean, you keep getting, is it basically someone would just contact you and say, hey, listen, I've got a job and are you interested? Or, I mean, do you ever pitch for jobs or are things just coming to you pretty much?
They pretty much just come to me now.
Oh, yeah.
At a certain time now, it's a small community. So we all know each other pretty much. So we pass each other scripts, like I said earlier, we pass each other jobs, or like a friend of mine couldn't do a TV show here in town. So I ran over the middle of the day and directed the whole thing for them because he couldn't make it. He had a thing with his passport. So no, I'm very lucky. The jobs just kind of come because it's been 32 years in the business. So I pretty much, we all know each other.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. I think at some point in your life, you just, your work speaks for itself. And if you still have to speak for it, then clearly there's something not right to begin with.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. You got questions, ma'am?
No, I'm just in awe.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
You're being sweet.
Nice. That's nice.
I am sweet. I have my moments.
His moments. He can go into rage as well. You know, it goes both ways with Bambos.
Of course.
Not lately. No, you haven't. No, that's not true. I got to take that back. That's not really true. Bambos, he's found peace with his anger, and therefore he doesn't have anger anymore. It's more like a state that he's been able to celebrate instead of resist, which is really nice. Would that be fair to say?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a problem with those emotions anyway.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. That's really important too, because people, as a director, you know, people think about what a director is. They think you're going to scream and yell and all that kind of stuff. And I never. This is me all the time. I never scream and yell. There's an answer. If somebody makes a mistake in rehearsal, that's okay. Let's fix it. Bart, we messed up that whole lighting cue. Okay, you're a human being. It's okay. Let's fix it. And there's no reason to get upset.
It's just about being fully connected, right?
Yeah. And if you hire the right people, I have a great team. They all are amazing at their job. I never have to worry. And opening nights, the press always asks me the same questions. They're like, "Are you nervous? Are you worried about tonight?" I'm like, "I can't be nervous. It's not in my control anymore. It's under their control. Everybody else's. I just get to sit back and watch and have fun."
You actually took Ronnie, I believe, to the opening night of Speed.
Yeah.
Ronnie was his date because I was out doing something. You know, Ronnie's mom is always anxious when she sees other people with like Ronnie when I'm not around, you know, or when I'm like with other people. Who is he?
I love it. Yeah.
And vice versa, by the way. If Andy is with a woman, and like, who is she?
I get the, you know, through Ronnie's mom, you know. Yes.
I love it.
We've got an extended relationship.
Hey, lovelies, we have just under a minute, but I think we can go a bit extra.
Yeah.
Do you want to, is there anything else that you would like to say before we jump onto the book covers?
I mean, I would first like to say at least thank Bart.
No.
I mean, what are you asking me?
He's going to be part of it, no?
Of course he's going to be part of it.
I didn't want to say goodbye yet, no.
Yeah, but I mean, you said what I want to say. I mean, that was... What? Help me understand.
I was actually asking him.
Oh, okay.
But
if I have anything else to say, I just want to tell you guys, thank you both. And I think what you're doing is so important here. I think A Wonderful Chaos is a very, very important podcast. And I think it's really great. So thank you guys both.
Mm.
So,
Thank you.
it's awesome.
Thank you for your time, for making time for us. It sounds like you're so busy.
Of course. Well, we're on a little slow because of the COVID, of course, but
Yeah.
2021 is really busy, really busy. So
Yeah.
feel very lucky. Yeah.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
let's go to some joy, Bambos.
There you go.
Um,
What kind of joy?
I have been waiting for this book.
There you go.
I've been waiting for this book cover for, I think, at least 2 months now. And when you do the book, you write a book, you give it to the publisher scans it, they say yes or no, and then you go into the feeding lot, right? Each is you're on the fall issue, you're in the spring issue, you're in the summer, so you're waiting. Your book is done. Like, you've done the book a year ago, but you have to wait in order to get the cover. So there's this anticipation of what is it going to be, right? What is it going to be? And you try to guide and do and give hints. So yesterday evening, I got 3 versions. I whittled it down to 2 of those versions for us to look at now. And from those 2, everyone gets the opportunity to, I'll put a link into the into this podcast, and I'll put it online on Facebook and LinkedIn or wherever I can put it. Obviously, if you 2 can push it into yours and say, listen, do us a favor and vote. And these is a poll which allows everybody to decide which of these 2 covers is more resonates with them, given what they read about the book itself. It shouldn't just only be what they see. It's also, here's a description of the book. Which one of these hits you most?
Yeah.
So without further ado, and you are the director, so I'm really wondering, is there some other lead-in that you'd suggest here, Bart, for us?
Clear your minds. Don't imagine. Just go with the one that fills your heart.
So without further ado, these are the 2 book covers for The Wounded Healer. You've seen it here first. Here we go. There they are. There they are. The 2 book covers. I'll do a full expanse on this. Basically, you see we've got the one to the left, which kind of portrays a little bit more of the journey. And we've got the one to the right, which portrays a little bit more of this experience of the radical self-love. So both of them have a bit of a different communication, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to click either one, because if I click or even put the mouse any longer on either one of them, I might be giving hints of where I might be leaning. And so what I'd love for people to do is to have a look, take your time, read the beginning of the description, and then press 1 or 2. When you press it, you will get to see the results of everybody else. So it is interactive. You do learn from it as well.
Oh, wow.
And I ask that you only do it once, because I know some people may have this inclination to say, I really like this cover and I really want it, so I'm going to press it multiple times. Please only press it once. If you have 3 people in the same family that also want the same cover, I'd ask you to be cautious, because I know those people already. I'm going to ask them to at least be conscious that to only use 1, 2, or 3 of the family members, not all 10 of them. I'm speaking to you specifically, Stephen Palmer. He's our guest on this Friday. My Dad Was a Narcissist. That's his title. You can imagine how exciting that episode's going to be.
Of course. Oh my God, I can't wait.
And we have our first drag queen on Thursday, Donatella Fergazzi. Bambus is going to dress in drag for that show. It's going to be great. Like,
I'm so going to put on my high heels. Oh my God.
And if you have drag queen names, we need them. If you've got them, I've got a few that I've been working on. I've been pulling out.
I actually didn't know that was a thing. When I saw your post, I was like, Andy, you're fucking weird.
You need the drag names, Bambos. I heard one come in yesterday that I'm very excited about. I own a trailer.
Yep.
That's one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to exploring with you.
Can you guys kind of baptize me so I
Yes.
already have a name?
Yeah, we'll give it to you. We make it up on the show. That's part of the show.
Part of the show. Yeah.
Thank you for joining. Right.
Absolutely.
A
Absolutely.
real
I
pleasure.
love you, and I'm very grateful that we got to spend this hour together. So thank you so much.
I as well. All right.
Joy.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye. And we look forward to publishing all the Roller Coaster Boy developments as well. I hope we come back when we have more done so we can actually see it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank everybody. And yeah, we'll see everyone on the next episode tomorrow. Who we have on tomorrow? We got Jules Turo. She's lived 30 years off the grid. She raised her children in a teepee. So that's going to be a fascinating hour.
Yeah.
Love you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.